In 2015, an elite DFS Army Commando unit formed to bring high-level DFS strategy to the masses. Today, hated by DFS sharks and lineup sellers alike, they continue their quest to turn Joe into DFS pros.
I told you guys I would start this podcast off with a rap, and I ain't gonna let you guys down. To all the players in the $100 tourneys, and to my homies that are still here learning, yo, it's a Honda Classic 2K18. Got Rory, Fowler, Sergio, and JT trying to help you fill out your DraftKings team, show you these stats and explain what they mean. Gotta make sure your thumbs line up on the grit, fire up, let it rip, wet greens, make them stick, make it divots, rake your digits, got GPP pivots, bankrolling these bitches, cleaning up these fishes. Last week we cleaned up these tourneys, $10.99 miscellaneous earnings, domination station put them in the gurney, so check us out at DFS Army. Oh, that was fun, I haven't done that in a while. What is up, guys? It's Taco. Welcome to the Taco Tuesday PGA DFS podcast, presented to you by DFSArmy.com, the coolest raps in the game. And if any other DFS touts out there want to take us on, we will hit you up in a rap battle 1v1 any day. What's going on, guys? Is Taco. I have a lot to talk about this week, as we just dominated last week. We just crushed it. So many winners to talk to. Got a little laundry let's go through. We'll start off with Mr. Yuletide. Won the 7K punch on FanDuel. Turned $12 into $575. Good job, Yuletide. JLS 0329. Won the 5K divot on DraftKings for a cool $250. Good job, man. Cat Country on DK. Almost went for a couple of tourneys here. Came second in the 12K driving range for $1,500. And 21st in the 4 for $500 on top of that. Quite a nice day for Mr. Cat Country there. And finally, Boa Tour on FanDuel. Won the 4K driving range. Almost won the 12K flop shot. Turned $19 into over $1,000 profit, because the domination station was spitting that hot fire last week. And you can gain access to it along with the awesome new research station, which has a one-for-one success rate here so far, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we keep the ball rolling. And speaking of rolling, we are rolling off to Florida for the Florida swing of the PGA Tour. We are no longer in the West Coast. Goodbye, Poa Nui Greens. Hello, Bermuda grass. Half of the golfers in the field are from Florida on any given week, so while there will be a few guys who outwardly express their love for Florida, this is pretty much what I would call the basic swing. This is the main part of the season right here, right before major season. We go here, we go to Texas, we come back here, we go back to Texas. It's fun. Do a little North Carolina, skip over to my Midwest for a little bit. That's the way the tour is going. Right now we're focusing on the Honda Classic 2018. Tons of Euros in the field. I guess makes a lot of sense. First East Coast tournament. All the European guys are extremely hot right now, and the best of the best, the creme de la creme, have shown up to put those skills to the test on the biggest stage. And it really should be a good referendum on a few of these guys. You've got some guys that are just absolutely red hot overseas. I think the only one that's not over here right now is Matthew Fitzpatrick, for whatever reason. I mean, he's come overseas before. Shoot, we see Dylan Fratelli is making his first ever PGA Tour start outside of the PGA Championship from last year. We'll get more into these guys as we go down the field. Let's talk about the course first. We are at PGA National, the championship course, a 7,140 yard par 70. It's a tougher course, one of the 5 toughest course or courses on tour averages about a stroke and a half to 2 strokes over par. Despite the very large and slow, easy Bermuda grass greens, we've got some of the hardest holes in all of golf, with the famous bear trap, the 14th through 16th holes, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I am mistaken here. The 15th through 17th holes. My bad. 15th, 16th, and 17th. The bear trap, some of the hardest holes in all of golf. We've got lots of water. Lots of, really, a lot of these shots are going to be hit in the middle of the green as, let's just say that the back nine at the end of Sunday is going to be a very, very tough affair. It's a very hard course to stay out of trouble at. We see tons of double and triple bogeys. This was the worst course outside of Oakmont and Bethpage, or the U.S. Open courses in general. But this is like the hardest course besides the U.S. Open courses when it comes to double bogey and triple bogey rates. 3.2% of the holes played here will end in a double bogey, and over half a percentage of them will go to triple bogeys, which doesn't seem like a lot, but most tournaments we see the triple bogey rate at somewhere around like 0.1 to 0.2%. So you can get in a lot of trouble here. These are very tight fairways, and you're going to be using less than driver. Sometimes the stats can be a little bit tricky. The driving average numbers in this tournament suggest that the fairways are a bit easy to hit, but that's not really the case. When we go to these driver down courses, the driving accuracy numbers tend to jump up a little bit because it's really important. You can't just let it rip as much as you have before, and a lot of holes are require you to hit a less than driver shot in the first place, so it's a lot easier to land it on the green, but it's very punishing if you miss the green or miss the fairways. Scrambling and strokes gained approach going to be more important than usual, as we will be hitting tons of balls out of this lovely rough, and it's quite nasty rough too. You don't see a very good scrambling conversion percentage rate. Pretty tough course, one of the hardest courses that there is, and when going through the stats for this week, I tried to compare it as much as I could to, since Bermuda grass is like the main type of grass that people putt on, for the strokes gained Bermuda stat, I kind of limited it to similar courses with similar greens. Slow, large, easy greens, Bermuda grass obviously. I think there are some very good comparison courses here. I think Copperhead's a pretty good comparison, among a few others, but really this course kind of speaks for itself. You do see more international players here than usual, and when looking at course history, it's like there are several players who you would deem course horses here, I suppose, but almost all of them have a miscut somewhere along the way. The attrition rate is just going to be higher than usual. We don't have that number one stud up there, so the highest priced guy, Ricky Fowler, is coming in at 8-1, but I strongly suspect that come the weekend he's going to be 9 or 10-1, because I think this is not a tournament where a superstar is going to win. I just don't think so. We see it sometimes. Rory can absolutely win here when he's not freaking out or complaining about his teeth or missing the cut like he has the last few years in a row. Yeah, and that's kind of the story that is painted here. Like Adam Scott's had great success, also missed the cut pretty badly. Keegan Bradley looked like a course horse here for a minute. Nope, 3 straight miscuts. That's the story of this course. I'm not going to care about course history a ton. Sorry, Graham McDowell. The par 70, we're going to focus more on your ball striking stats. Approach, obviously, like every week. Around the green more than usual. Putting more than usual. And driving distance, accuracy off the tee. Not as important this week. Accuracy is going to be a bit of a bonus. Driving distance doesn't really help you a ton, honestly. Rory and Justin Thomas can attest to that. And in my opinion, this is probably the most interesting slate so far this year, because it's not easy on either side. It's very tough to make lineups. Actually, DraftKings looks a lot softer in pricing than FanDuel, which if you played last year, that was absolutely not the case ever. But definitely this week, FanDuel is very tough to make some quality lineups, as really the punts in this tournament are almost unplayable. All of the guys at the bottom are pretty freaking bad, in my opinion. We'll get down to them as we get there. Should move along through the studs here, as there are 4 studs that stick out like a sore thumb. No one has any odds that are better than 25 to 1, and you've got 5 guys here at about 15 to 1 or better. Well, 4 guys that are, well, the clear studs here. We've got, like I mentioned on the wrap, we've got Ricky, Rory, JT, and Sergio. And they're pretty fairly priced, honestly. There's no one that really sticks out here. Ricky Fowler seems like he is going to be the cash play, the defending champion. He's gone on a run of 6 straight made cuts with a few top 10s mixed along the way. And this year he's been really good. I know he missed the cut by a stroke at the Farmers. Maybe it's 2 strokes. I do believe that's a 60. Yeah, the top 60 in ties there. Maybe it's a couple of strokes, but nonetheless, the Rickster outside of that showing at Farmers, which is another tough course. Actually, another course that's somewhat similar to this one, Bermuda grass, harder course to play on, etc., etc. You know, but anywho, outside of that, Ricky Fowler has been quite good throughout the swing season. Almost won the Hero. Almost won a couple of times during the swing season. I'm trying to remember which tournament it was he won exactly. I think it was the OHL. You can quote me on that, even if it's wrong. I don't care. You can quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it's the OHL Classic where he won. Now, as far as Ricky goes, ownership-wise, I think he's going to be... It's between him and Sergio for the chalk here. I know that people love both of them. Ricky, just in general, gets over-owned. Rory missed a cut recently. Justin Thomas has not really been one to collect a lot of ownership. I think he's kind of like low-key the play here this week. Looking at all 4 studs, Ricky Fowler, Rory McIlroy, both have somewhat recent missed cuts. Sergio, not really. Sergio's been pretty hot overseas, but this is his 2018 debut for the PGA Tour. But Justin Thomas come rolling in here with 12 consecutive cuts made. A bunch of tiny no-cut tournaments played as well in the midst of that. So those don't count, obviously, but looking back, 8 wins over the last 2 years, man. Justin Thomas has all the upside here for GPP. He's probably my favorite of the 4, to be honest, although in cash games I think I'm going to roll Sergio. He's the only course horse here that has no... that it just has a strong level of consistency. Great finishes in all of his finishes here the last 4 years. Guy's a beast, makes 91% of his cuts. I'm going to be rolling with Sergio, and he is by far the cheapest, at least on DraftKings. Looking at FanDuel, he's still the cheapest, but the difference between him and Thomas is $800 on DraftKings, as where on FanDuel the difference is $300. Sergio becomes a lot more playable there, along with Rory, who is the same price as Justin Thomas on FanDuel, $12,100 over there on that site, just a couple $100 more expensive than Sergio. FanDuel's interesting this week. I say interesting a lot, but it really does interest me because it seems hard to make lineups out there, especially if you want to jam in a couple of studs like people oftentimes do. It might be a great week to go over there and play a bunch of mid-range $9, $10, $11,000 guys. But we'll get there as we move along here. So as far as the top 4 studs go, I think they're all going to be over-owned. I don't really know, actually. I mean, I know that there are no 12K guys in the field for DraftKings, but at the same time, I don't really like a ton of the plays at the very bottom, so I think a lot of people are just going to grab one of these guys, be it Ricky or Sergio or what have you, and move right on along. I don't think this second group underneath them, the red hot Euro guys, I know that they have great game logs, but I still can't see them being like overwhelmingly owned. Maybe Fleetwood, but maybe Noren, but he's just Noren's ridiculously priced on FanDuel, 11,500, almost as much as Sergio. Pretty crazy there, but man, Alexander Noren. Let's just hop onto him right now. Alexander Noren, 10,100 on DraftKings, 11,500 on FanDuel. He has, oh gosh, hello baby. Oh, hold on 1 second, podcast. All right, the baby is loved. I am back. Alexander Noren, I think that's what I was talking about last time. I'll just go with him. He has been killing it since coming onto tour. I think he was pretty sure it was him or Peters or both. Don't remember off the top of my head. Don't feel like Googling it, but either him or Peters or both are going PGA Tour full time, which I am on board with. Noren is like a top 15 player in the world. He won, over the last 2 years, he's won 5 times. Doesn't show in the long-term form stats, just letting you know there. Anyone you see in the notes section that says Euro, most of their results are going to come from the European Tour. Now, guys, it's really easy to want to play a guy like Fleetwood or Noren, Hatton especially. These guys have amazing looking game logs. Just know that they are playing against guys like Burned Rit Hammer, okay? They are not up against the best of the world. They don't get very many world golf ranking points for their tournaments. They're not the strongest of fields usually. You do have a few strong fields, like especially during the latter half of the race to Dubai, or Abu Dhabi is a really nice strong field. But that's pretty rare, and usually these guys are making way for Rory, because Rory just absolutely stomps the European Tour. But Alexander Noren has just been excellent since coming onto the PGA Tour. All top 25 finishes, almost won at the Farmers Insurance Open. And looking back at his long-term PGA Tour history, he has made the cut in 86% of his events played, 7 straight cuts made on tour. Doesn't really have the high upside, really. His second place finish was the best, but when thinking about the European Tour, granted it is the European Tour, but he does have those victories, which show that he's definitely not a choker. He is definitely a finisher, like Wheezy F Baby in certain songs. But compared to guys around him like Sergio or Gary Woodland, I think I am definitely going to lean more on my PGA Tour brethren this week. Moving to Woodland, actually, he is in a really nice spot coming off of a missed cut. He missed the cut the same way Rory McIlroy did at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Now, the Pro-Am can be... a lot of golfers don't really like that tournament, and Woodland, for me, throughout the years, he's always struck me as a guy who is a bomber who sucks at bomber courses and does well at accuracy courses. Get the driver out of his hand, keep him on the fairway, although he does stay on the fairway pretty darn well for someone who hits the ball 313 yards. 62% driving accuracy so far in the year. That is sick. 74% green and regulation rate too. Like, statistically, he's the man. His approach numbers, while they're not Justin Thomas level yet, and I guess I really should have added that in the analysis for Justin Thomas there. His approach game off the charts. That's another reason I love him so much right now. Just scrambling's kind of a worry-ish for him, but Woodland, statistically, last few weeks, obviously with the miscut, it wasn't quite as hot as his start to the season, winning the Waste Management Phoenix Open, top 15 at the Farmers and Sony Open, and really just coming in, just crushing it off of the swing season as well. Woodland is priced appropriately finally at $9,700, $10,700 on FanDuel. His odds are about 5-1 better than Noren's. I mean, he makes for a good play off of Noren, especially on FanDuel. He's $800 cheaper. But I don't know how invested I'm going to be in this general group of guys. Although I'm feeling like I should go maybe perhaps a little bit overweight on this group. I haven't really made all my final decisions yet. I've made some lineups, just haven't really got... like, this week is quite a bit of a head scratcher. I don't have a lot of really strong super takes because there are a lot of just questionable guys. Like the ones I'm about to mention here. Tyrrell Hatton, Tommy Fleetwood. These guys are they're just monstrous over there on the European Tour. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. If you're not just playing on DraftKings and looking at their game log here, you've got to really see what these guys have been doing over on the European Tour. And they've had European golf on DraftKings for a little while now, and these guys aren't always like this. I mean, there's a fair warning here. Last year during major season, really just Hatton's meltdown at the Masters is kind of what the situation reminds me a lot of that time. I don't want to invest too much into looking at a player's Augusta performance and using that as analysis, but going into Augusta last year, this guy, second in the DP World Tour Championships, he won at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship, top 5 at the Honda here last year, T4, and at the Omega Dubai Desert Classic, which is a pretty strong Eurofield. The WGC Mexico Championship, he finished top 10, also, of course, a strong field, WGC. Arnold Palmer Invitational, he finished T4. And at the Dell Technologies Match Play, I forget who his partner was, but he finished T17. And going into the Masters tournament, he was extremely underpriced, like everybody is in major tournament pricing where it's super soft. But he finished about dead last in the field. It was horrible. He looked so bad. And then right after that, he ended up missing 5 cuts in a row between the U.S. Open and the Open Championships, including 3 European Tour events. So that just screams, watch out. I know that he won back-to-back on the European Tour not too long ago, just a few months ago. He's had, 7 or 8 top 20 finishes in a row. And that's all that shows up on DraftKings right now. They just look like all top 20 finishes for him, but I think the sharp play is realizing that before this current streak of his, which is about 9 to 10 tournaments long, he's in a very, very, very good form. It's just remember that before that, it was about as bad as it is good right now with all of those horrible miscuts in a row. I don't know if it was just a lapse for a few months. I mean, this was like half a year ago, the PGA Championship, Open Championship. I just feel like people aren't going to be thinking about that as much. They're going to be looking at those top 20 finishes, and they'll probably pile up on him. The odds also stick out a little bit better for him than they do for Noren. Even slightly better than Gary Woodland and Fleetwood is Tyrrell Hatton, probably because of his history here. Even though Woodland did better last year, he's 1-for-1 with a T4. It's pretty good. I don't know. I feel like I don't know if he's going to be incredibly highly owned. I'm just not sure about that. And if he is, I really don't want a part of him. And if he isn't, I want him though. I basically want to just play the ownership on Hatton. Now Fleetwood, I would play more just straight up because he is a beast. He is such a beast. Every year, he's tops of the European Tour in green regulation percentage. In one tournament this year, T37 last week at the Genesis Open. That's fine. I am used to seeing European guys come over and just miss the cut horribly. Like one Bernd the Weisberger, who I'll talk about later. My favorite European Tour golfer. He'll make like 40 cuts in a row on the European Tour, then come to America and just eat crow. Just get rocked. He was pretty good last year. I'll give him that. But again, we'll talk about him. I'll gush over him when we get to that point. Underneath Hatton and Fleetwood, I would say that it goes down quite a bit in value. There's really a decent drop in salary down to the level of Patrick Reed and Russell Knox. This is going to be a wasteland. All of these guys are kind of like overpriced for their odds. There's just a huge gap in talent right here. Another one of the things that makes this week so tricky. This little group here of Patrick Reed, Russell Knox, who has good history here outside of a missed cut last year, and then Brian Harman, who was did the most Brian Harman thing I've ever seen, going from top 20 to top 20 to top 20 to top 20 finish, only to get rocked at the Farmers Insurance Open and finish dead last. Classic Brian Harman. He did this at the or during major season last year. Remember that he almost won the U.S. Open and then followed it up by getting absolutely smoked at the British Open, or the Open Championship. Working back to Russell Knox, I like this play a lot at $9,000. Definitely better at $9,400 on FanDuel, but hear me out here. He missed the cut last year. Sure, 2015 and 2014, he almost won those. Third in 2015 in a 4-man playoff, got beat by the better Russell that day in 2014. Still T2. Been very good recently. I know last year was horrible for Knox, but think about if you've been playing for a while now, think about before last year. Knox was a must-have cash game play every single week. Are we seeing him round back into form? He has 4 out of 5 made cuts on the season so far, and they're all top 30s. The one missed cut at the Waste Management was by 1 stroke. In fact, I think he actually made the cut, and that was just him finishing last. I did what I could to make the recent form numbers, instead of having them say missed cut, I try as hard as I can to adjust them to or show how they finished according to the whole field size. Should actually add the field size on there. I just don't want to add a third header on there, but that was 73rd. I think he's, no, he did miss the cut there. My bad. He did miss the cut, but it was by a stroke, and I kind of like guys who miss the cut by 1 stroke. They always make for a great GPP play the next day. It's just Russell Knox is really, he's like the cash game play. That's like what he's known for, but he has winning upside. He's done it several times now. He really broke through, and it's like, as soon as he broke through, it was like Hudson Swafford, where he broke through and he just got rocked after being so consistent for so long. So Knox I like, but in GPP, and I don't think I've ever said that about him before. Brian Harman is the GPP play because I use him as my example as a GPP only play. He's the Ryan Anderson of golf, because he's either getting a top 15 or he is just missing the cut horribly. That's a bit of his course history here too. I know he finished T48 last year, but miscut T11, miscut T12. So Brian Harman, big hit or miss. He's your Mike Wallace of 2011. You know what I mean. Daniel Berger, $8,800, and he's yet another example of why course history just doesn't matter here at all. T2 in 2015. He did great. He was in the nuts lineup. He was super low owned. He was like the guy. And that was right before I remember actually he won me a crap ton of money at Bay Hill the following week or the week after. Just always someone to note, like he's a real Florida boy. He lives really close to the course. Plenty of these courses actually. I know a lot of golfers do, but Daniel Berger really does do better on Bermuda grass greens. He's usually a bad putter, but on Bermuda grass greens, he is a positive putter. At least similar Bermuda, as are in the numbers for here. And in Florida, he just does significantly better than otherwise. We've seen that with him throughout the years. Kind of, not someone just to target on the Florida swing, but he definitely has a bit more success here than he does on the West Coast swing. We saw him get rocked at the Genesis Open, but before then, T11 at Waste Management, T11 at Sony is not bad at all. Long-term made cut percentage of 84%, and long-term top 20%. 48% of the time he's finishing top 20. That's great. That's excellent. 3 wins over the last 2 years. Really like that with Danny Berger. Love him in GPP. Brandt Snedeker. I've not been liking him all season long. It's time to start liking him, I think. A couple of top 25 finishes in a row for him. Of course, they were at 2 courses that he's excellent at. He hasn't played an entire tournament here without withdrawing since 2010. Just to the result of a T50 finish. Definitely more of a Poa Nua kind of guy. He's one of the main people you think of when it comes to the West Coast swing, so I'm not really feeling him here at $8,700. There's just no way. And $1,100 on FanDuel. Do you remember the movie George of the Jungle? This is where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, I'm not paying that for. I'm not paying $11,000 for Snedeker. No. Duffner, $8,600, $10,300 on FanDuel. You might have to play him on FanDuel, honestly. I know his price is crazy, but in cash games, it's so, I've been trying to help people make cash game lineups in FanDuel all day, and it's tough. It really is tough. Dufner's made 12 straight cuts. Long-term made cut percentage, 90%. Great course history here. Somehow he hasn't missed a cut yet. T61 a couple of years ago. And I know, I shouldn't be saying that course history doesn't matter and then bring up the good course history. It's just, I'm just used to doing that, okay? It doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt at all. He's a great cut maker, great ball striker. His approach game is as good as it's always been. He's Mr. Consistency. I love it. Let's do it. I was really concerned about him over the swing season, finishing last at no cut events, but he's been fine. He's been fine with his 2 events he's played so far this year. T18 Sony, T60 or T36 at Career Builder might actually have been a finish for him, because I mean he was the defending champ. Was he the defending champ? I'm not sure. Either the defending champ or I just know that he always does well there. I know he's won either last year or the year before. Nonetheless, Dufner, like him in cash, don't care for him in GPP because I just wanted to make that cut. Kevin Kisner, who, this is a funny one. I was looking up I found some of my old spreadsheets from about 2015 for this tournament. Kevin Kisner costed, well, I'll tell you what Rory McIlroy cost. He cost $15,700 on DraftKings. $15,700. Kevin Kisner cost $4,100. I shit you not. That used to be how DraftKings Golf was set up. It was set up not even like NBA. Like the pricing was so crazy. It was set up like EuroLeague basketball. Like Rory is like Nick Kalathis, and then Kevin Kisner was just like some bench scrub that got 2 minutes a game. But man, Kisner's fresh off a miscut at Pebble. If anyone's going to be missing a cut through the West Coast swing to start the season, I would prefer they miss at Pebble. That's a pretty easy one to get over, I think. Maybe even the waste management a bit too. They're just really crazy, busy environments. This is a swing separated from all that craziness. A bunch of old people in Florida. You know the drill. Kevin Kisner. I love guys who missed cuts this week. I really do. Just moving to a different location. Kisner is pretty good in Florida. His Florida numbers aren't great like a Patrick Reed level. Totally forgot to talk about Patrick Reed, by the way. I just had to get into Russell Knox there. Let me take a step back here. Patrick Reed. Missed the cut by 1 stroke at Pebble Beach. I guess I really like that, you know. Top 25 at Waste Management Farmers. I'm always very hesitant to play Patrick Reed, but a long-term made cut percentage of 86%, top 20% of 54%, 3 wins. His approach game is excellent right now. Yeah, I really like Patrick Reed, actually. I'm coming into the podcast, I had just overlooked him, but really just looking at it now, man, I really do like Patrick Reed, so make a note there. Going back to Kevin Kisner here, well, pretty much how I need to about him. Just missed the cut, so it makes for a really nice little play here. Ollie Schneider-Jans also. I like the fact that he missed a cut by 1 stroke twice so far this year. He's 2 for 4 in cuts. When he's not missing the cut by 1 stroke, he's finishing top 10. And here at this event, he also has a top 10 and a missed cut. Yeah, just like everyone else. I like him on FanDuel. He's always underpriced on FanDuel. $9,300 on there. 84 on DraftKings just feels kind of like right. Webb Simpson does not feel right. I mean, he'd been priced up so highly for a lot of the courses that he's very good at. Priced in like the $9,000-$10,000 range during a few of the events where he let people down, like the Waste Management. But $10,400 on FanDuel. Now you can miss me with that, but $8,300 on DraftKings. You have me interested in Webb Simpson, fresh off of a missed cut. Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods. Sorry to mess you up, Tiger. $8,200. I just discovered, actually, just looking through some of Tiger's old stats. 'Cause I like doing these. He's such an interesting case study. When you study stats all day long for PGA, and then you look back at like how things used to be, it's like, God, I would pay 15.7 for Tiger. That guy made 142 straight cuts. And when I was looking back, you can go back to the Wachovia Classic in 2005. Tiger Woods had made 142 straight cuts. Second closest on tour, Ernie Els, 19. And then like the third closest after that was like 15. There were only like 3 or 4 guys that had like streaks of over 10 made cuts. You think back long term, well, not long term, but like for us long term, over the last few years, how many guys have we seen make even like 20 cuts in a row? We had Swafford, who made 20 in a row and then just got wasted. Stenson made like 30 in a row. I think Scott did that too, and then they blew out at tournaments that they were great at. Like Stenson got rocked at the Players, which is very strange. Man, 142 cuts in a row. It just puts into perspective how much of the GOAT he was. Coming off of a pretty bad miscut at the Genesis, but at least he didn't withdraw. I mean, I feel like I'm going to be saying that a lot about Tiger this year. Didn't look great, but at least he didn't withdraw. I mean, looked really good at the Farmers, but he just owns Torrey Pines, dude. Like, he's an 8-time winner there. I think, I don't know, I don't want to just dive into that too much. I'm going to hold off on Tiger still. That 35% driving accuracy, though. Ooh, lad. 50% greens regulation. Yeah, boy. Let's get it. Good job, Tiger. Nah, I can't really play him. Rafael Cabrera-Bello. I don't even consider him like a Euro guy anymore. I mean, he plays enough on the PGA Tour. 2 straight weeks now he's finished T26 and saw very, very high ownership at Pebble. His price is slowly coming up. On FanDuel, it's through the roof at $10,800. I don't know what's up with that, but $8,100 on DraftKings should make him not the chalk, but pretty chalky. I'd say he's going to be pretty chalky. T37 last year. Really good stats. Not the longest off the tee, but I mean, great driving accuracy and greens, and that's what we're looking for. Approach game, one of the best in the entire field. Excellent on Bermuda. It has been great on the Florida swing throughout the last several years. Really liking me some RCB. I just know they're going to be eating chalk there. So I will pivot directly on to $8,000. One Martin Kaymer. 9,400 on FanDuel. Also very strong play there. I love Kaymer a lot. Good for cash. Good for GPP. He may seem like a Euro guy, but he definitely has decades of, well, not decades, but about a decade or so of experience on the PGA Tour. A major winner, and he won the U.S. Open by like 8 strokes. He can win any tournament out of anywhere, and lately he's been a monster cut maker. Let me put it into perspective for you. Over the last 2 years, not counting European Tour, where he crushes, especially at Abu Dhabi, just absolutely crushes, several other courses like that. Outside the European Tour, on the PGA Tour alone, 96% cuts made. 18 consecutive cuts made. Guy's a beast. He is just a beast. T4 last year at this event. He does not finish, like, he has almost no top 10 upside, only an 8% top 10 mark, which is strange. But this was one of those events. This was probably one of the only events where he's finished top 10 in the last few years. But he's really just a make the cut, see you next week kind of guy. Just don't want to win it all, but I just want to get paid every week. 96% made cut percentage, though. That's with a real sample, too, because he's played seasons on the PGA Tour. He's not always on the European Tour. So, Martin Kaymer, love him at 8,000. Love him at 9,400 on FanDuel. He's one of my love plays this week, but he's not a lock. Don't get it twisted. There are no locks this week. You can fade anyone, because the water is waiting for anyone who takes an approach shot on the 18th hole. Believe me on that one. Super hot guy right here, Scott Stallings. T4 last week, T7 at Pebble, and T23 at Waste Management. That is some pretty good form. Got rocked at the Farmers. His long-term made cut percentage, though, that sticks out even worse than Kaymer's, 53%. I mean, Stallings is, he won back-to-back at the Farmers. He got absolutely crushed there this year. I don't really know what to make of him. I don't know why he's doing so well. Only a 19% top 20 rate. That's, I mean, he doesn't deserve to be rated or priced at $8,000 with Kaymer. I don't see how they're equal. But somehow Stallings' odds are better than Kaymer's. I guess it's just that short-term form that's admittedly really good. But, I mean, right before these great finishes of his, miscut at the career builder, miscut at the farmers. I mean, him and Sam Saunders are going to be some guys to look at this week. They're in amazing short-term form, but long-term, I know they're not good. So, not going to pay for them. We're just going to wait him out and see. If you want to just ride the hot form with him, sure, go for it. I mean, his approach game is what's been carrying him, and I like that. Historically, he's been shit in Florida. Not the greatest Bermuda putter either, but can scramble. I mean, that's one of the things we are definitely looking for this week. Louis Oosthuizen making his PGA Tour debut of 2018, T21 last year, tied with Scott Stallings. He is also a cut maker supreme, 87% long-term made cut percentage, and I think over the last 5 years he may have withdrawn more than these missed cuts. Honestly, he's a cut machine usually. He's had an up and down history, in the past. He's missed several cuts here between 2011 and 2013. I think back then, I know he won the Masters and all that, but he was going through a really strange lull in his career, withdrawing a lot with neck issues and stuff. He's gotten a lot better. He hasn't withdrawn in forever. So, Oosthuizen, I would love to play him in cash if it weren't for the long layoff. That's pretty much it. 42% top 20%. That's good. Bud Cauley, $7,800. He was like $6,000 the other week. He's back to normal and overpriced. I don't know if I could really play him just with the guys surrounding him. Kiradech Affi-Barnrat, $7,800. I guess I'm just going through everyone today. There are a lot of interesting guys here. A lot of good European guys. Affi-Barnrat is... You probably want to wait and play him for the Bay Hill. He's pretty expensive coming in. $9,000 on FanDuel. I mean, they're not making any pricing errors with him. They know exactly who he is. He's finished T6 2 years in a row at Bay Hill for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's never played this tournament before. If you look at his long-term form, it can be a bit confusing because he stomps the Asian Tour a lot, and he also does pretty well during the Asian swing of the European Tour. But he has had PGA Tour success. He's no stranger to the tour. Definitely I wouldn't say a sharp GPP play, but a pretty good one. Because he's about the same price as what I imagine will be one of the chalk plays this week. Because it just doesn't make any sense why he is priced this way on DraftKings. Adam Scott. He is our top projected value at $7,700. It's pretty obvious why, because he is Adam Scott, and he is priced at $7,700 for some reason. I guess one miscut at Pebble Beach is all it takes to get your price to just shoot down the toilet. I told you guys about this play last week. Like, he is Adam Scott. He has in the last 2 years, 91% made cut percentage. And the last 2 years haven't even been like that hot to him. The 2 years before that, he missed no cuts. He made every cut. He's always been a fantastic cut maker. 56% top 20 rate. Very good. Won this event a couple of years ago. Hasn't finished outside of the top 15 since 2011. Approach game is good right now, and long term, he is the best in the entire PGA Tour outside of maybe Henrik Stenson at approach, because the best. I'll just say the best, because his approach game has always been just excelente. He's like Australian, so I don't know why I said excelente. I mean, Molinari's not even in this field. I don't know what I'm doing. Adam Scott, just love him. Rock him in cash games. Made the cut last week. It's not like he's floundering or anything. I don't get it. Chesson Hadley, another guy, just rock solid throughout the swing season. Going to just still perpetually underpriced, even 4 events through the season. It's like DraftKings does not believe in this guy. $7,700 for Chesson Hadley. I know that last year he was a scrub missing cuts on the web.com tour. But before then, like around 2015, 2016, I think around the time he lost his tour card, he was really a good cut maker week to week. Maybe back more towards like 2015 or so. You see a lot of guys really just have like these lulls for like a year or two and then come back and just play like normal. Play like they had been. I don't think there was an injury concern with Hadley or anything. He just kind of sucked for a while, but he's good now. Very good. He has not missed a cut in a while. 9 straight made cuts. But the long-term made cut percentage just still tells you the story right there. Despite these 9 straight made cuts, 59% long-term made cut percentage. Like, he's one of these guys like Patton Kizzire we're going to talk about here in a little bit that short-term, if you look at it short-term, pretty good. Go even a little bit farther back through the swing season, hey, it looks really good. Go back into 2017, you're like, oh, God, what is this? He was so bad. Missing cuts on the web.com tour, like I had said. But, yeah, he just got to ride him right now because he's underpriced. He really doesn't come in with crazy ownership and being the same price as Adam Scott. I think he makes a nice pivot. I don't know if Scott gets chalky, and I really almost just kind of want to bang. Whoa, hold on. Phrasing. But, trying to think of the term here. I guess it wouldn't be bang the book, but I just want to like bang the lineups with all the Scott. But I don't know. If I hear him being talked up a lot throughout the industry come Thursday, I might pull the fade and just go straight to Hadley or even Russell Henley, $7,700. Won the Battle of the Russells in 2014. And he's never going to be highly owned. Almost never. He's 1 for 3 in cuts made this year, but both cuts that were missed were by 1 stroke. He was pretty good coming into the season, in the swing season. Very good putter, just overall. His approach game is nasty bad, though, and that's why I'm probably going to avoid him outside of like some GPP shares. This $7,700 price range is... I guess I really just like... I like not playing Henley here. His odds are as good as Adam Scott's at 52-1 right now, as I'm seeing. Hadley's 58-1, but I would definitely take Hadley and Scott over Henley here. If people are going to see his odds and play him based on that, and the fact that he's a former winner here, won 4 out of 5 years, I'm not really feeling Henley there. Horrible strokes gained approach this year. I think that's going to be important. And also we've got really bad strokes gained around the green, which is also going to be important. Driving accuracy also not great. So yeah, he's like the antithesis of this course. I guess I really don't like him, even though he's the former winner. Keegan Bradley also rounding out the $7,700 club. He was a course horse here for a few years, and then nope, 3 straight missed cuts of this event. Missed the cut last week. I don't mind fading Keegs ever. This is a great week to fade the Keegs. Now we get into the $7,600 price range, and if you play Euro Tour golf, you already know who I'm talking about here. Hell, you know 3 of these guys. You know all 3 of these $7,600 guys. And we're going to talk about the super hot one right now. Phrasing again, but who cares. This guy is good, and I've been playing him on the Euro Tour for a while. Playing him a lot. He is, to quote a Mr. Oh, what was his name? Like Tim. It would have been better if I knew it off the top of my head, but the dude that did the sound effects for NFL Blitz, NHL Hits, and of course NBA Jam, he is a boom shakalaka play at the moment. 8 out of his last 9 events played, he's finished top 10. Has a win at the Afrasia Bank Mauritius Open. I do believe that was at his native South Africa. Not the strongest event, definitely. Don't get it twisted here. Also T2 at the Turkish Airline Opens. That one's a little better of an event. Won at the Lioness Open. That one's okay. 2nd at the Volvo China. Yeah, okay event. He beat the likes of Affy Barnrat there. Now, this is his first time not playing a major. Outside the majors, this is his first time ever playing on the PGA Tour. He did make the cut at the PGA Championship last year, T63. That's pretty much what we have to work with here. He had played for years on the Challenge Tour and had just worked his way up in the European Tour, so he's kind of like your discount Tyrrell Hatton, minus the big horrible miscut streak. I guess he did miss a few cuts in a row going into the Open Championship after winning the Lioness Open, but kind of like Hudson Swafford. Sometimes you see guys win and they lose their minds and they just miss a few cuts for a few weeks in a row because they don't care, man. They're just they're excited. They just won like $1 million. So ultimately, my advice is to just sprinkle him in a little bit, keep an eye on him, but don't like hammer him right away in his first event. Like, geez, don't do that. Thomas Pieters at $7,500. Another guy barely made the cut last week and didn't look too hot, but he's always done pretty well. Finishes top 30, 50% of his events that he's played on the PGA Tour. That's pretty good. 79% made cut percentage, and he's played enough for that to be substantial. But I do like a direct pivot off of him, at least in cash games. Yeah, the odds don't. If you're just going by the odds, you'll never play him. But I really do like Emiliano Grillo. Emiliano Grillo. I can't roll my L's name. I think I'll just say Grillo. Emiliano Grillo, $7,500, $8,400 on FanDuel. I also like him a lot, probably a bit more on FanDuel. He is a very strong cash game play there. Probably going to be popular, I would imagine, because he's made 10 cuts in a row. 87% long-term made cut percentage. He is a very good cut maker, and he's a tournament winner. But usually not a tournament winner. He's won one tournament, but a 12% top 10 percentage. He really is a cash game play. All of his statistics are A-okay, positive, maybe even a little bit better than average in the positives, and pretty much all of his strokes gain categories. Kind of dicks it around out of the green, but nothing major. Really like Grillo, and a lot of the options are slim pickings here. So Grillo is going to be someone we're hammering pretty heavy on this event, at least just in cash. I'd try to hedge off him in GPP. Byung-Hun An at $7,400, $9,300 on FanDuel. He has never played here before, but top 25 at the Waste Management. Nice to see him coming back to the PGA Tour in form. Remember that this was the dude that made, like, I don't know, the first, 18 cuts of the season last year before falling off a little bit. Doesn't really reflect in the long term. Made cut percentage only 74%, but a couple of years ago he was definitely not as good as he was last year. Last year he was a solid cut maker week to week. Got his salary up into the 9,000s, especially at some of your softer events. 7,400 is fair. 9,300 on FanDuel, I guess pretty fair. A guy that skipped over, my favorite European Tour golfer. I'm sorry, Bernd, but he's burned me before here. Bernd Weisberger at $7,600. He missed the cut here in 2016. Hasn't played on the PGA Tour yet this year, and doesn't have any. Only has one top 10 finish in the last few years here on the PGA Tour, despite a 75% made cut percentage. So he really almost feels like a cash game play, but not just fresh off of the tour. Like in the European Tour, he's always going to be a cash game play, like every single week, because I think he had missed a cut recently. Actually, kind of threw off the stat. There was a stat I had going where he had made 46 out of 47 cuts or something just going in, but not as hot as him anymore. Or not. Gotta quit saying hot. Get some real phrasing going on here, but I'm not really on him as much as I would usually be, and this is coming from a fan. If he's missing cuts on the European Tour, really if anyone's missing cuts on the European Tour, I'm going to worry about you. Unless you're a PGA Tour golfer, and I guess it's kind of understandable because you're not really used to all the link-style golf courses. But, moving right along, Ryan Moore at $7,400. He makes for a pretty nice play here. You may, if you've only been playing for a few months or even a year, you might think of him as kind of like a floundery type golfer who's been struggling, I guess. But I mean, top 10 last week and long-term made cut percentage of 81%. Remember that he, outside of the last maybe 4 or 5 months with him, he has always been a cash game stalwart, and looks like he's back to being normal. I missed one cut, that's fine, but Top 10 last week. I'll take that. A 43% top 20 percentage. I like that. Very, very, very talented on Bermuda grass greens specifically. So I like Ryan Moore. Probably not as a sneaky play because on DraftKings at least he does stand out. But on FanDuel I kind of like him overpriced at $9,900. Johnny Vegas, 7,400, 8,400 on FanDuel. Pretty good FanDuel play. T4 last year. Of course, miscut before that, so I guess ignore that. But still, just a GPP play. Always has that very high GPP upside and can win. And coming off a couple of missed cuts in a row, one by one stroke. I mean, I don't mind it. I just hate it whenever Vegas is chalky. I really don't like that. But this is kind of like where you want to take Vegas when no one has him. He's just like James Hahn. Patton Kizzire, $7,300, 9,600 on FanDuel. He is red hot. Couple of wins over the swing season. Well, one win over the swing season. Then he won the inaugural event of the year, the Sony Open. Followed that up with some made cuts. T42 at the Career Builder, T31, Waste Management. That's pretty good. Thing about Kizzire is it looks good on paper. You know, you look at this year's finishes, it's like, all right, okay, he's number one on the FedEx Cup money list, which is like one of the dumbest metrics to ever go by. But no, granted, he's number one in the FedEx Cup. Okay. Here's the thing. Last year, he only made half of his cuts. That's bad. That's really bad. Long-term made cut percentage, 66%. What did we see last year? We saw Patton Kizzire red hot in the swing season. Even got a win. Just awful. Just miserable once the season kicked in. I'm worried about you, Kizzire. I know you're underpriced, and I'm going to play you this week. I really will. I'll play it $7,300. I'll play you. For sure. But, man, I just wish he was more chalky because I think there are reasons to get off of Kizzire. I really do. But he's, as far as the ownership's been, he's been coming in under on the ownership each week, and I've been kind of surprised, sort of like Chesson Hadley. You'd figure people would get onto these kind of short-term sort of plays, but it hasn't really been the case. He's not that popular yet. Maybe, I guess a bunch of other people that have been playing for a while, they do remember the Kizzire that really sucks. But same price as him, $7,300. Great cash game play right here. Charles Howell. I sound like a retarded baby saying that. Charles Howell the third. Chucky 3 sticks. Charles Howell the third. $7,300. As usual, DraftKings is extremely disrespectful to his face. 4 for 4 cuts made on the season, including T6 at the Farmers Insurance Open, and more impressively almost, a T37 at the Genesis Open. And those are two events that he sucks at. He's not good at. Did very well. 86% made cut percentage. And you know what? If you knock off, like, I don't think he's even played any majors recently, but if you knock off like the playoffs and really just the events in the fall where he always tunes out, his made cut percentage is probably more towards like 99% because he is a cut machine. Always has been. And he looks like he's 12, but he's like 40. Top 20 percentage of 47% over the last 2 years. So almost half the time he's finishing top 20, but only 10% of the time he's finishing top 5. And of course he hasn't won in years. He is a very special kind of cash game play where you're not even going to finish like T55 like a Martin Laird would give you. No, he's going to finish like T28 and do pretty good each week. I mean, T6 at Farmers was great, but really he's going to get you about a 20 or 30th place finish every week, and you're going to take that in cash all the time. So play him in cash. Graham McDowell, $7,300, same price, same odds as Charles Howell III, but for completely different reasons. Pretty much dead last at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, but followed up with a T26 last week, and his course history here is great. Of course, he has a horrible miscut in 2015. I remember being personally afflicted by that back in the day, and then jumping off of him going back to his top 10 ways. But he has 4 top 10s, and his last 7 years here, T14 last year as well to boot on that with the 1 missed cut. But I put a little horsey symbol on him in the notes, a little horse emoji. And when I put a horse emoji on there, what that means is he is a course horse, but specifically what I always tell people that means is that's the only reason you're playing him. He is your KJ Choi. And I just made a post on the DFS subreddit on Reddit about how KJ Choi, he actually, I'm gonna read it to you because I'm very proud of this. Honestly, I'm gonna do this to you guys. Sure, you guys like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right? Everyone does. Great show. Well, it taught me something. It taught me to know when I'm being dentist. And KJ Choi dentist systemed me last week. He demonstrated his value by finishing top 33 at the Genesis Open 16 years in a row. He engaged physically with a top 5 a couple of years ago, won me a lot of money. He nurtured dependence. Three straight years I went in on him. Almost all in every year. 90% the last 2 years because he had come in rough form. He had always cashed on my all-in, especially that T5. It was great. I think last year was like T15. Very good. He neglected emotionally by starting the season 2 for 7 in cuts made. Then he inspired hope with a T26 finish at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. And then, of course, the S in the dentist system. He separated entirely. By missing the cut horribly, like +6. It was horrible. Oh well. Didn't play much last week. Thank you, NASCAR, for keeping my crazy KJ all in this year. Very, very limited compared to years in the past. Thank you, Daytona, for that, because I got smoked last week. I did well last week overall. It's just that I had obviously a huge miscut in every single one of my lineups. I mean, I knew going in that I could just bail out on I could miss every single entry and I would still have made way more money in my lifetime betting on KJ Choi, who, mind you, I've only ever rostered at the Genesis Open. So now that that's gone, he is off to the Champions Tour. Good riddance, KJ. Not playing Graham McDowell this week. And before you use that as a reason to go, see, course history doesn't matter at all, dude. KJ Choi just missed the cut for you. Who won? That's right, Bubba Watson, the other course horse at the event. So who knows? Course history is such a... I like weeks like this where I know that course history doesn't really matter a ton. And then, of course, I love weeks like the Masters where course history matters oh so much. But just going to kind of summarize the bottom of the field here because this is a top-heavy field. The bottom half of this field is very rough. I'll go over some of the guys that I have pointed out. Ryan Palmer is another course horse here who does have a T2 finish at the Farmers Insurance Open to his name and a T20 at the Career Builder. Missed the cut by a few strokes at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Haven't seen him since. 6 straight made cuts here. I might as well just put a horsey next to him as well because really, outside of that T2 finish, maybe you're really just going to play him for that course history. Super long bomber. I don't see how that helps you at all. And that's always been Palmer's MO, 315-yard drive. Moving right along here at 7,200, the play I like in that range is Nick Watney, who is someone that people have forgotten about. He took 1 year off with injury, and it won't show right now, like a 63% made cut percentage. I'll clarify for you guys a bit here. That's going to be thrown off a little bit with Watney because he was injured and was going through all of that crap. This is a very, very good golfer who has never missed the cut here and hasn't missed the cut on the season so far. Historically, though, this is what concerns me. Historically, he had always gained his strokes through approach. That's one of the reasons I like the guy so much. But recently, he's been god-awful at approach, and he's made up all of his strokes putting, and it's not really what you want to attack, but Nick Watney is never going to be highly owned, so why would you, fade him for that? I mean, I guess just fade him for the approach game, but, I mean, this is... I don't know, he makes for an alright just sprinkle in GPP. Again, the pickings here are slim. I don't trust Patrick Rogers yet enough. I don't care that he's finished. He has 2 top 30 finishes in a row. I'm kind of skeeved by him because the last year or so he's been awful. 54% made cut percentage. Eek. My boy Chang Soon Pan, 7,200, 7,500 on FanDuel. I love him on FanDuel. CT Pan, has been okay this season. Really has been hanging around the cut line. Missed the cut by a stroke a couple of times. Really his only good finish this year is the Farmers Insurance Open. Finished T35, which is okay. Long-term made cut percentage of 55%. That's not okay, but a few good finishes here. T37, T14, and I think his game is perfectly set up for this kind of course. He's your Taiwanese Jordan Spieth. I've been called that exactly one time in my life, but I'm going to pass that nomenclature on to Chang Soon Pan because he actually deserves it. He's the real Taiwanese Jordan Spieth. Statistically, he's great. Everything I'm looking at here, putting, approach, around the green. Yeah, I mean, when you take away strokes, well, he actually gains strokes off of the tee, but it's all driving accuracy, and that's what you want, really. And 291 yards off the tee. He's gotten longer this year. He's not really your Asian Jim Furyk anymore. He's your Asian Jordan Spieth, minus the eliteness. And then Sam Saunders, I've already mentioned him. I think people are going to notice that he's not finished outside the top 26 this year in 4 events, and hasn't finished outside the top 17. And it's crazy. He played here back in 2010 as like an amateur, like a little 18-year-old. I think he's like 17 actually. He was like so young and just killed it. He always gets. He's the kind of guy. He's exactly like Eric Compton, where he will always have one thing the announcers say about him. Eric Compton's like, he had cancer. And Sam Saunders, Jim Nantz is going to whisper, well, his grandfather, his grandpa's Arnold Palmer, we know. We'll hear it a lot at Bay Hill. Tons. Might as well play him now before he gets all that attention, because I'm sure that there will be, touts will be throwing out the narrative of your grandpa's tournament, but I don't think he's ever even done well there. Another guy who has been historically, maybe a few years ago he was a cash game play, but last year, John, I mean, usually I see him and I go, because he's never highly owned, and he's helped me a lot in the past as a sneaky 1% owned guy. He, I mean, not really a winner, but 3rd at Career Builder. Pretty low key with that too. 4 straight made cuts. Really, the T3 was the only great finish. I mean, T26 last week was alright, but missed the cut last year, but the 2 years before that, top 20. When you're down here, you just gotta take what you can get, honestly. And we're over an hour here, so I'm just gonna round out the final few plays here, because really 7,000 and underneath on DraftKings is just really rough. At 7K, you may need to take some shots at Ben Martin, who's been a pretty good cut maker. 5 straight made cuts, and I think it's like 8 out of 9 cuts overall since the swing season. Don't quote me on that one. Go look that up. Taliguch, who he's technically a rookie, but he's played here before, back in 2015. He'd been on the web.com tour for a little while. His odds are like terrible, like 200 to 1, but he has made 82% of his cuts since coming to the PGA Tour. T20 last week at the Genesis Open. I don't like his driving accuracy or greens numbers. I do like his approach game. That's like the one thing that sticks out. And I guess so far he's been pretty good on Bermuda, but that sample's got to be tiny. It's only like 8 or 9 tournaments played, so you can only take like shots at these guys. Luke Donald has a good course history here, and this seems like a Luke Donald course, but he made the cut at Genesis, but he was like dead last at the Farmers. Missed the cut by several strokes at Pebble Beach. A GPP play I enjoy. I don't know if other people play him because he does stick out as the best odds for anyone in the 7K range, but Anirban Lahiri, I can't see him being too highly owned. T11 last year, T26 last week at the Genesis. He's going to be a nice little sneaky play. And then just going down a little further, I don't know if I feel Swafford yet. Maybe I want to see a little bit more from him. I missed him somewhere along the way. Maybe I haven't hit him yet, but I'll point out that Luke List is in a pretty good spot right now, even though this is not a Luke List course at all. Sean O'Hare has 3 straight top 25 finishes here, and 5 top 25 finishes in his last 7 attempts at the Honda Classic. And he's been literally on the cut line like every event. Sean O'Hare used to be a lot better than he was. He used to be a weekly kind of contender, and I don't think he's that good of a golfer anymore, to be honest. 74% made cut percentage is pretty good for someone in this range, but I think O'Hare has been moving backwards and really plateaued on the just barely make the cut range. Can't be too interested in that. This seems like a Wesley Bryan course. 6,800, 8,100 in FanDuel. Top 10 here in the last 2 times he's played, which are the only times he's played. Very, very, very short off the tee, and that won't kill him here. And it's not like he's an accuracy guy either. He just sucks off of the tee, but he's a great putter, especially on Bermuda, and that's where he gains all of his strokes. He's just like a putting guy, and this is a tournament where putting matters more than usual. I usually do not like to play Wesley Bryan at all because I don't like guys dependent on putting, but this is a place where I think you are okay with rolling a guy like Wesley Bryan. After a couple missed cuts in a row, he's going to be 1% owned and be okay. Stuart Sink is 6 for 6 made cuts here. Might as well plop a little horse on him. I guess you could possibly roll him for cash. He's missed the cut by several strokes in his last few events at Farmers and at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. But looking back long term, this is a wild stat from him. 68% made cut percentage is alright for somebody 6,700, very cheap, but a 42% top 30 percentage. Now that is great. I like that a lot, and that's I have noticed that over the last year or so, is that Stuart Sink, when he makes the cut, he'll make the cut like 8 times in a row and finish T26, T27 like every single time. So, and the last few times you've seen him out here at this event, T27, T26, T31. That's what you're getting from Sink. So I guess as far as a cash game play goes, he's about as good as anyone that's missed 2 cuts in a row. And mind you, those 2 missed cuts were at gigantic West Coast par 72s. This is your small par 70 Florida swing course where he's good at. I think Sink could be a good cash game play, even despite the fact he's coming off of missed cuts, because I like I've said before, I like targeting these guys who are coming off of missed cuts. We get a fresh start here in Florida. Now, if Brendan Steele was in this field, I would not like him because he is a West Coast guy. Same with Phil Mickelson. Think about it. Now, bottom of this field, don't play anyone. Actually, I'd pulled up some stats on Matt Every earlier. He is $6,600, and I want to look it up again because it is absolutely hilarious. So Matt Every, long-term, made cut percentage, 36%. It's not good, but, I mean, he's won multiple times on the tour. He is a card holder for some reason. But looking back at the last few years of him, it's been pretty rough. 6 events played so far this year, 4 missed cuts. That represents a pretty good season for him. 30 events played last year, 18 missed cuts. 19 events played in 2016, 15 missed cuts. Just awful. He's coming towards the end of his PGA Tour card. He kind of took over Stephen Bowditch's spot as like the worst golfer, but we'll see who takes the spot after he is done. We'll see who claims his throne. I'm looking at a Smiley Kaufman as that guy, because that guy's finishing dead last in every field right now. He's been doing that for a minute, and he's got that like random one-off win just like Matt Every. I think he could take the reins here. So that is your in-depth shitty player breakdown from your boy Taco. I will talk about lineup construction here for a minute, but then I'll have to go. Basically, on FanDuel, you can afford to take a stud or two. Usually people always take 2 studs on FanDuel because you have the extra salary. But, man, it's hard to choose on FanDuel, really. You might there it's easier to go up to Fowler for sure. DraftKings, you can more just kind of like pick who you want to make a stand on. But again, with the studs, I do like Justin Thomas this week a lot. He is my favorite, followed by Sergio, followed by Ricky, and then Rory. I like him in GPP. I mean, yeah, because he's won. He almost has won multiple times on this course, and he can win at any given time. And he's been very low owned last few weeks. T20 last week. I mean, yeah, but I don't like piling up on these European guys, although I do like taking sprinkles, especially the ones that I don't think will be as highly owned, like your Fratellis. And I really just like these sneaky pivot plays coming off of missed cuts. Actually, I guess I did a pretty good job of explaining myself because I don't have much more to say. I hope that you guys can take down several more of these contests. Last week was awesome, but don't just go blindly playing the optimal lineup again. I want to see some unique roster builds, and this week definitely lends itself to that a lot. And you can really go many different ways. I honestly predict that the winner of this tournament is going to be like a Ted Potter Jr. 0.1% owned guy. I don't know why, but I just feel sure of it because I don't think Ricky, Rory, or Sergio win this thing. I really don't. And really, if anyone's going to win this thing, like, my guess would be Justin Thomas. He's my favorite play in that regard, but I still wouldn't play him in cash games. I would play Sergio or Ricky over him in cash games for sure. But Justin Thomas is like a core GPP play. So I'm getting out of here. Fun talking to you guys. Fun rapping for you. I might try and do that more often, but it actually took a little bit longer than I expected to kind of get the cadence down there. But hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys next week for, man, I gotta always have a schedule up, I swear. I'm pretty sure that Bay Hill is next week. If it is Bay Hill, I will be telling you to play Daniel Berger and Henrik Stenson like a mother. And I will see you then. Good luck. Pay attention to these Euros. You're going to need this information for when the major season comes. All right. That is all. Bye. See ya. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the DFS Army podcast. Join the DFS Army today and gain access to our private Slack chat, where you can chat with real DFS pros and coaches, as well as other DFS Army members with winning track records. Also included in your membership is access to our premium articles, DFS Army weighted projections for every sport we offer, from NFL to MMA, weekly player picks and cheat sheets, the strategy vault of timeless concepts, and the DFS Army Domination Station, a truly state-of-the-art lineup optimizer, offering your personal projections or ours. The DFS Army membership is the best value across the industry. Join today and get 2 free ebooks, as well as the secrets to unlocking a new level to your game.